So good morning, everyone. Um, so an important day, and I was kind of pondering into a topic of discussion for today, and I have arrived at something that I feel that would be of value to all to each one of us today. Now, let's start the story by an analogy, right? We've all been kind of participating in sports some point in our lives, for sure. What if we are in a world where we say instead of when people are running or in a race, you know, where everybody starts at the same time, what if we say that, all should run with the same gear and training? Or we also compensate for the physically weak and challenged. And what if we say that the reward of running or winning should be equal for all runners? So what I'm talking about is instead of a society or a place where people are ranked in terms of being number one, number two, number three, and so on and so forth, what if we belong to a society where we say, no, everybody wins? And that brings me to the point of today's conversation, which is let's talk about equality. Now, what is equality? Now, at the core of what equality is, it's the moral worth that says that every human being is equal. Now, the most porous, and it so there are a lot of different ideologies which talk about liberty, which talks about rights, which talks about justice. Now, all of these are pretty explanatory, self-explanatory, or they are defined to the T at certain levels. But when we come to the word called equality, now equality is kind of a little porous in nature. Now, if we look at nature, in nature, we see nothing is equal, everything is unequal. The solar system has different planets of different sizes. Um, Nature, different species kind of evolve in certain different ways. There is natural selection in picture, and it leads to the concept of what we call egalitarianism. Now, egalitarianism is a society where we try to create a structure where we say that everything and every policy and political arrangement is equal. Coming back to the metaphor of the race that I presented earlier on, when we say that does equality mean that everyone should start at the same time, which is in definition called as equality of opportunity, or we say that all should run with a similar sports gear and similar training, which is a form of substantive equality. What if physically weak and challenged should be compensated? That's called positive discrimination and affirmative action. And the reward of winning should be equal for all runners. If we live in a society like that, we're living in a society which believes in the equality of outcome instead of equality of opportunity explained earlier on. Now, when we talk of equality of opportunity for accessing education and employment, healthcare, these things, it shouldn't matter. It ensures that everybody has a level playing field and gets access to the rewards of life and equal treatment. It removes constraints like social bad luck. It accepts inequality of outcome due to inequality of natural talent, which exists in the world today. The inequality of individual choice and the freedom of choice and expression. And it is formal and versus substantive. And generally, in a society which propagates equality of opportunity, we see people working harder to kind of climb up the ladder. It promotes efficiency, excellence, and production, but it also allows for economic inequality. Now, certain pros and cons of equality of opportunity would be equality of opportunity is easy to implement. It's equal concern for each citizen, protects individual dignity, and promotes efficiency. But some of the criticisms towards the idea of equality of opportunity are that it promotes status quo. Some people belong to communities that are quite backward, minorities, and it's kind of meaningless for people lacking basic necessities in life. And it's also said that it's mere formal equality which doesn't really seep in through the society. When I speak of equality of outcome, now equality of outcome consists of getting the same results, conditions, and rewards, be it income, welfare, or resources. It's substantive and positive equality. It provides meaning and substance to equality of opportunity. And one of the ideas is that it's troublesome to implement, for sure. And such a doctrine is generally supported by socialist or communist ideologies, whereas equality of opportunity is supported by more capitalistic and a free market force. Now, the pros and cons of equality of outcome, again, in favor, it's a substantive equality. It broadens the horizons of equality, definitely makes equality of opportunity meaningful, and takes an idea of equality closer to fairness and justice. The criticism is that it's definitely difficult to implement. It kills the incentive to excel because everybody would be treated the same. And also, in history, we have seen that equality of outcome comes with its own negatives of an oppressive and authoritarian state that undermines the freedom of choice for each and every individual. Now, broadly speaking, equality of opportunity is about setting a level playing field for everybody and anybody, but it does accept there are certain inequalities that exist in a society today. Whereas the equality of outcome, it's about leveling down to provide equality in results of competition. And the troublesome idea for many that it creates a society with hard egalitarianism, it's definitely difficult to implement. Now, my submission to you is whenever we use the word equality, and specifically in gender roles and gender terms, when we speak of gender inequality, and specifically in gender inequality in the professional world of gender pay gaps. And I truly feel that, men and women, between men and women, the pay gap should definitely be decreased and brought to one, which is definitely the goal of a society. But the good part is, since 1970s till today, which is 2020s, right, the gender pay gap has been decreasing consistently. Now, I believe in a society where we provide equality of opportunity to both men and women, but we would still see that being different, men have certain proclivities towards certain careers, and so do women. Like, men are more likely to be builders, to be working in blue collar jobs like drivers and mobile plant operators, metal workers, also the fields of STEM and engineering. Whereas for women, they are more likely to start their own personal careers, again, blue collar jobs like being cleaners or office clerks, and also white collar jobs such as being in the health industry and teaching. The ratios of male to female labor force participation across the world regions is decreasing. We see this through East Asia, Europe, Southeast Asia, even Africa, Western offshoots, and the Western world as well. But largely, the ratio is being kind of getting in the zone of parity across the world from early 1900s to today. And we also see that the historical gender equality index from 1950s to 2000, now this is an index that includes health, it includes socioeconomic resources, it includes gender disparities in the households and gender disparities in politics. And the higher score denotes less inequality. And we see that as a world, we are moving in definitely a positive direction as a whole. So I'm optimistic. I'm optimistic in a society where both men and women have their roles in a society which provides equality of opportunity to both. And I truly feel that our society is definitely moving in the right direction. I would like to quote Christina Hoff Sommers, who says, "A fair and just society offers equality of opportunity to all, but it cannot promise and should not try to enforce sameness," which is a version of equality of outcome. My last submission to you today is, whenever we use the word equality, let's try to really, really define and talk and understand what we are talking about. Are we talking of equality of opportunity, which I'm totally for, versus equality of outcome, which has produced devastating results in the past? Thank you so much.